Paris, 1789. The air crackled with anticipation, fear, and simmering discontent. The city, a dazzling spectacle of wealth and power, was also a place of stark contrasts. Opulence reigned in the grand palaces and salons, where the French nobility, clad in silks and jewels, indulged in a world of luxury and privilege. But beneath this glittering facade, a different reality festered. The streets, teeming with life, echoed with the struggles of ordinary Parisians. For the vast majority, life was a daily grind against poverty, hunger, and despair. Bakers struggled to feed their families as the price of bread skyrocketed. The weight of inequality pressed heavily upon the city. The extravagance of the aristocracy stood in stark contrast to the misery of the poor, creating a breeding ground for resentment and revolution. The seeds of discontent had been sown, and soon they would bear the bitter fruit of rebellion. France teetered on the brink of economic collapse. Decades of lavish spending by the monarchy and costly wars had drained the nation's coffers. The burden of taxation fell on the peasantry and the emerging middle class. Empty markets and soaring bread prices became a grim reality. Resentment towards the privileged few reached a fever pitch. King Louis XVI convened the Estates General, a decision that would spark a revolution. The year 1789 dawned with trepidation and hope. The Estates General, meeting after 175 years, sent ripples through French society. Representatives from all three estates gathered to address the kingdom's woes. The clergy, the First Estate, enjoyed immense wealth and privilege. The nobility, the Second Estate, held vast lands and power. The Third Estate, representing the majority, carried the nation's weight. As they gathered, deep societal fissures became apparent. The Third Estate, inspired by Enlightenment thinkers, sought change. The stage was set for a showdown. The Estates General quickly descended into a stalemate. The Third Estate, demanding a more equitable system of representation, found themselves stonewalled by the intransigence of the privileged orders. Frustration mounted as weeks turned into a tense standoff. Finally, on June 17, 1789, the Third Estate took a bold and unprecedented step. Declaring themselves the National Assembly, they proclaimed themselves the true representatives of the French people. They met in a nearby indoor tennis court, vowing not to disband until they had drafted a constitution for France. This act of defiance, known as the Tennis Court Oath, was a pivotal moment in the French Revolution. It marked the end of the absolute monarchy and the birth of a new era where the power of the people would be paramount. The National Assembly, embodying the hopes and aspirations of the French people, had thrown down the gauntlet. The revolution had begun. Section 5. Storming the Bastille, a symbol of revolution. The news of the National Assembly's defiance spread through Paris like wildfire. The people, emboldened by this act of courage, took to the streets in a surge of revolutionary fervor. Fear and uncertainty gripped the city as rumors of royal troops massing outside Paris reached fever pitch. On July 14, 1789, a mob of Parisians, desperate for weapons, stormed the Bastille, a formidable fortress that had long symbolized royal tyranny. The capture of the Bastille, though largely symbolic, it held only a handful of prisoners, was a watershed moment. The storming of the Bastille, a seemingly impregnable symbol of royal authority, sent shockwaves throughout France and beyond. It demonstrated the raw power of the people when united in a common cause. The French Revolution had found its symbol, and the world watched in awe as the old order crumbled. Section 6. The Rights of Man, a new vision for France. Emboldened by the storming of the Bastille, the National Assembly worked feverishly to dismantle the structures of the old regime. On August 4, 1789, in a momentous session, they abolished feudalism, sweeping away centuries of privilege and inequality. The special rights of the nobility and clergy were abolished, paving the way for a more just and equitable society. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, adopted later that month, enshrined the fundamental principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. This revolutionary document proclaimed the inherent rights of all men, regardless of birth or social standing. It declared that the purpose of government was to protect these inalienable rights. The Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen became a beacon of hope, not only for the French people, but for oppressed peoples around the world. Its principles would inspire generations to fight for freedom, equality, and justice. Section 7. Flight to Varennes, the monarchy's fatal mistake. As the revolution gained momentum, the position of the monarchy became increasingly precarious. Louis XVI, caught between his desire for reform and his fear of the radical forces unleashed by the revolution, found himself increasingly isolated. In June 1791, the royal family, disguised as commoners, attempted to flee France under the cover of darkness. Their destination was Varennes, a town near the border, where loyalist troops awaited. However, their escape was thwarted when they were recognized and apprehended. The flight to Varennes proved to be a fatal mistake for the monarchy. It shattered any remaining illusions of the king's commitment to the revolution. The people, who had once viewed Louis XVI as a benevolent ruler, now saw him as a traitor, an enemy of the revolution. The failed escape radicalized the revolution, pushing it towards a more extreme path. The demand for a republic, once a fringe idea, gained momentum. The fate of the monarchy hung precariously in the balance. Section 8. The Rise of Radicalism, from Revolution to Terror. The flight to Varennes and the king's perceived betrayal unleashed a wave of radicalism that swept through France. The revolution, once driven by lofty ideals of liberty and equality, now took on a darker hue. Fear, suspicion, and paranoia gripped the nation. Radical factions, such as the Jacobins and the Cordeliers, rose to prominence, their fiery rhetoric and uncompromising demands finding fertile ground among the Parisian masses. They demanded the abolition of the monarchy and the establishment of a republic. The escalating violence on the streets of Paris, coupled with the threat of foreign invasion by monarchist powers seeking to restore the old order, created a climate of fear and uncertainty. In this atmosphere of paranoia and suspicion, a new and terrifying phase of the revolution was about to begin, the Reign of Terror. Section 9. The Reign of Terror, Robespierre's Iron Grip. The Reign of Terror, a dark and bloody chapter in the French Revolution, began in earnest in 1793. Led by Maximilien Robespierre, a charismatic but ruthless lawyer, the Committee of Public Safety, established to safeguard the revolution from its enemies, unleashed a wave of repression that would claim thousands of lives. Driven by the belief that terror was a necessary tool to achieve virtue and justice, Robespierre and his allies targeted anyone perceived as a threat to the revolution. Aristocrats, clergy, and even ordinary citizens suspected of counter-revolutionary activities were arrested, imprisoned, and often sent to the guillotine. The Reign of Terror reached its peak in the summer of 1794, known as the Great Terror. The pace of executions accelerated with the guillotine, a chilling symbol of revolutionary justice, claiming an average of 17 lives per day. Fear and paranoia gripped the nation as no one, not even Robespierre's closest allies, was safe from suspicion. Section 10. The End of an Era, the Fall of Robespierre. The Reign of Terror, while brutal and excessive, succeeded in suppressing counter-revolutionary activity and consolidating the revolution's gains. However, the relentless bloodshed and Robespierre's increasingly dictatorial rule eventually led to his downfall. On July 27, 1794, 9 Thermidor, according to the revolutionary calendar, Robespierre was arrested and overthrown in a coup d'état orchestrated by members of the National Convention, who feared for their own lives. The following day, Robespierre and his allies were sent to the guillotine, the very instrument of terror they had unleashed upon the nation. The fall of Robespierre marked the end of the Reign of Terror and the beginning of a new phase in the French Revolution. The Thermidorian reaction, as it came to be known, saw a return to more moderate policies. The Committee of Public Safety was stripped of its power, the terror was gradually dismantled, and a new constitution was drafted. Section 11. A Legacy of Change, the Enduring Impact of the French Revolution. The French Revolution, a tumultuous and often contradictory period in history, left an indelible mark on France and the world. Its legacy continues to be debated and reinterpreted to this day. The revolution's ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity, enshrined in the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, inspired countless movements for social and political change around the globe. It shattered the foundations of absolute monarchy, paving the way for the rise of republics and democratic ideals. The revolution also demonstrated the power of the people to rise up against oppression and demand their rights. It served as a cautionary tale for rulers, reminding them that power ultimately resides in the governed. The French Revolution, despite its excesses and tragedies, remains a pivotal moment in human history. Its legacy of liberty, equality, and fraternity continues to inspire and shape the world we live in today.